The streets were eerily quiet that evening, the entire city basking in the soft, golden glow of the streetlights. The night carried a peaceful stillness, but for Special Agent Vanessa Carter, chief of the FBI, peace was often fleeting. She had just wrapped up a high-profile security briefing at a classified government facility and was finally heading home. Unlike many in her position, Vanessa preferred to drive herself whenever she had the chance. Years spent in law enforcement had instilled in her an appreciation for the rare moments of solitude the open road provided. Dressed sharply in business casual, her badge carefully secured inside her bag, she navigated through the city streets, eager to unwind after a long day. As she cruised through the dimly lit roads, a sudden burst of flashing red and blue lights filled her rearview mirror. Her heart sank, not in fear, but in sheer frustration. With a heavy sigh, she signaled and pulled over to the curb, already wondering what this was about. She hadn't been speeding, hadn't run a light. What now? A uniformed officer, a white man in his mid-40s, stepped out of the patrol car. His name tag read Officer Greg Thompson. Adjusting his belt, he approached her vehicle with a rigid posture, his expression unreadable but firm. Too firm. There was an edge to his stance, an authority that felt almost confrontational. He rapped on the window, sharp and demanding. Vanessa took a steady breath, keeping her composure. She rolled down her window just enough, making sure to keep both hands clearly visible on the steering wheel. Experience had taught her that even the simplest interactions could turn unpredictable. "Good evening, officer. Is there a problem?" she asked, her voice steady, calm, but firm. Thompson's gaze flickered over her, studying her with narrowed eyes before responding. "License and registration," he ordered, completely ignoring her question. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. No explanation? No standard courtesy? She had dealt with officers like him before, and she already had a sinking feeling about where this was going. Still, she kept her tone measured. "May I ask why I'm being pulled over?" A smirk tugged at the corner of Thompson's mouth, as if he found her question amusing. "You match the description of someone we're looking for," he said, his voice laced with something unspoken. Vanessa inhaled slowly. She had heard these words too many times before. "And what description would that be?" she pressed, refusing to let it slide. Thompson ignored her question entirely. His demeanor hardened. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. She remained seated, unflinching. "Officer, unless you have a legitimate reason for stopping me, I have the right to know why you're asking me to exit my vehicle." Thompson's patience visibly thinned. His hand inched toward his holster, a subtle but unmistakable threat. "I said step out of the car," he repeated, voice sharper this time. Vanessa clenched her jaw. She knew her rights. She knew this was wrong. But she also knew how quickly situations like this could spiral out of control. The headlines flashed through her mind, stories of those who never made it home. With a slow, deliberate nod, she grabbed her purse and stepped out of the car. The second she did, Thompson reached for her arm, gripping it too tightly, his fingers pressing into her skin. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" he demanded, his voice laced with suspicion. Vanessa stared at him, her expression unreadable, masking the frustration simmering beneath. "I work in the city, officer," she replied evenly. "I was on my way home." Thompson scoffed, shaking his head. "Yeah? Doing what exactly? You don't look like you belong here." There it was. Vanessa took a slow, deep breath, forcing herself to remain composed. "Officer, I strongly suggest you take a moment to reconsider what you're doing right now." Thompson let out a short, condescending laugh. "Oh yeah? And why is that?" Without breaking eye contact, Vanessa reached into her bag with practiced ease and pulled out a sleek, black badge holder. With a flick of her fingers, she flipped it open, holding it up for him to see. The gold lettering gleamed under the streetlights. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Chief of Operations. Thompson's smirk vanished. His eyes darted between the badge and Vanessa's unwavering expression. His posture stiffened, his confidence visibly shaken. He took a half step back, his face losing color. "You're the—" His voice faltered. Yes, Vanessa said, her voice cool and steady. I run the FBI. And you just illegally detained me without cause, used excessive force, and profiled me for no reason, other than the color of my skin. Thompson's hands trembled. His breath hitched. Ma'am, I didn't realize. You didn't ask. Vanessa cut him off, her gaze unrelenting. You assumed. At that moment, another patrol car pulled up, its headlights cutting through the tension. Two officers stepped out cautiously, one of them instantly recognizing Vanessa. Chief Carter. Sergeant Davis rushed over, his expression tight with concern. Is everything all right? Vanessa crossed her arms. Not really, she said coolly. Your officer here decided to harass and detain me without cause. I'd like to know if this is standard procedure in your department. Davis's face darkened. He turned to Thompson, his jaw clenched. You pulled over the FBI chief? Thompson stammered, visibly unraveling. I didn't know. That's the problem, Vanessa interjected sharply. You never bothered to find out. You saw a black woman driving a nice car and decided she didn't belong. Davis inhaled sharply, then turned to Thompson, his voice cold and resolute. Hand over your badge and gun. You're suspended. Effective immediately. Thompson paled. Wait, sir, Now, Davis ordered, his voice brooking no argument. Thompson hesitated for a fraction of a second before unbuckling his belt, removing his weapon, and placing both his gun and badge into Davis's outstretched hand. His fingers twitched. His career was over, and he knew it. He cast Vanessa one last, desperate glance, but she was already turning back to her car. Before stepping inside, she paused, looking at him one final time. Next time, she said quietly but firmly, think before you act. You never know who you're dealing with.